Hey, what's guys? It's Brian here. I'm with Julian,
Hi.
and we are making a video on schools. What are the problems with schools? What would we do to try to fix it? As you guys know, I want to be a teacher and eventually into a principal. Julian, he hates school, so he doesn't want to work in that.
Yeah.
So I'll start. I would say three main problems in school. Oh, right now, at least at my high school: no discipline, unfairness, and culture war stuff. Those are the three problems at my high school. What would you say the three problems? We went to the same high school. With three of the problems that you noticed?
Those are definitely the same problems. I mean, there's probably more problems, but those are the three main ones. I would say those are the big problems. I will say that every kid can relate to this who still goes to school. The hats and hood thing is the most annoying rule ever. And the whole dress code in general. We do have a dress code. All schools have dress codes, but no one follows the dress code because teachers and principals do not
have the courage to enforce it.
They do not enforce the dress code at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that bothered me at my high school, they would tell a kid if you're wearing a hood or a hat, take it off. We can't identify you. What the fuck? We can't identify you, yet there's girls that can come in dressed like hookers with their stomach showing, their breasts showing, their legs showing, all that. And there's guys that can wear shirts that I smoke weed every day and shirts with guns and stuff on it. Yet you cannot wear a hood? Where is the sense in that?
I honestly don't see why, or I've asked a teacher, multiple teachers before, and they really couldn't give me a clear answer.
Yeah, no straight answer.
It is the dumbest thing. I did have some teachers back then who actually wouldn't mind the whole hood thing, because there are some teachers out there who do think it's stupid too, but they have to listen to the rules, which is understandable. But I don't understand why, the whole hood and hat situation, just like you said, the whole can't identify you thing, or if I wear a hat, I guess I'm a completely different person.
Yeah.
Which I guess I could understand if you're wearing a hat.
Yeah, hat, sunglasses, and a face mask.
I guess, a kid could, sneak something in, but I really do not get the whole hood thing. I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah, so the other thing I want to talk about in this video, this will be a much shorter video, the discipline factor. I think we need discipline back in school on a universal level, not just for students. I think staff members are just as uninnocent as students are. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
We need... So if you guys have ever seen the movie or read the book Lean on Me by Joe Clark, it was based on a true story. Alright, sorry guys, we're back. Sorry, the dog was freaking out, so we had to move so you could hear us better. So what I was talking about was discipline in schools. We need universal discipline for teachers and staff. So like what I said, if you guys have ever seen or read the book Lean on Me, Joe Clark was a real principal. He was in a school in East Side Heights in Trenton, New Jersey, sorry. It was a school that, I'll just give you the rundown. Students were terrible. There was drug dealing going on. There were fights going on constantly. Vandalism. The teachers were the majority of the teachers were just lazy. They weren't teaching. There were some teachers that were trying to teach, but the students would not let them teach, Very ineffective principals. It was severely underfunded. I mean, the school just had a number of problems. So the state said to the local school board, if you don't pass the test and get 70% on the state test, that's basically like a PSSA or a Keystone, or a final, I guess, we're going to take control of the school. So the school district had fired the teacher, Joe Clark, years before. They bring Joe Clark in. He comes in, he changes it, He gets rid of all the teachers that are, the music teacher that's real, that are just lazy and crappy. He suspends about 300 kids on his first day because they've been held back for 5 years because they don't want to put effort in. And he changed the school. So initially, back to the point about the discipline thing. There's no discipline in schools. Dress code is not enforced. The hood thing is, but the other stuff isn't. You have students that are just so bad. In most situations, they'd be getting in-school suspension or after-school detention or lunch detention, where they just go, oh, don't do it again. That is not discipline, my friends. Now listen, I'm not saying, oh, let's hit them. I'm not saying that. But at least maybe if they never ever get in trouble, and it's something minor, maybe say, all right, don't do it again. You do it again, your ass is grass.
Yeah.
But they just don't want to do it. And then on the teacher part, there's a lot of principals that are afraid to go after teachers because the teachers union might sue us. Joe Clark was in the teachers union 3 times in court, and he won all 3 times. Just putting it out there. You shouldn't be afraid of teachers. At the end of the day, sorry about the motorcycles. At the end of the day, guys, schools is a workplace for staff members and students. And it is always the assistant principals, the lunch ladies, teachers, students, whatever. They are all one person. I'm sorry, it's like North Korea. the building principal is supposed to be the highest force. They're supposed to be the one that they solve the problem. They're the ones that enforce the rules. They're the ones in charge. But I feel like now schools are just, with lack of discipline, anyone but the head principal controls it. The assistant principals, the teachers and the students, and they're the ones that all control it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, that is very true. That is very true. But there's one thing that you got to remember, that it all goes back onto the parents.
Yeah.
Now, the parents, that's a key thing, because teachers, they're kind of like the middleman in the situation. Like, they don't know what to do or say because the parents might get upset, the principal might get involved, the teacher might end up getting fired. So it's actually just as hard for them.
Yeah.
But it is the parents that need to, enforce discipline. Now, we're only teenagers. We were obviously not perfect as children. We didn't listen or do anything that our parents asked us all the time.
No child does.
But no child does. But through age, when you get older, you do get better, and you do become a little bit more knowledgeable on what things happen to you. Things have consequences. But parents also, they need to be better. But they still need to show that
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically what I'm saying is
Tough love.
Tough love, yeah.
Yeah, so I've always said this. I want to put this out there. I want to be a teacher. There's two types of teachers to me, two types of strict. There's the strict type of teacher that's trying to, teach you a life lesson, that's trying to prepare you for the world. You understand what I mean, right?
Yeah, I completely understand.
And then there's the strict type of teacher that's just like, I don't know if they're on a power trip or they're just having bad days every day. They're just, they're doing it because they want to be rude. Like, I've had many teachers that were like that. I've also had many teachers that were very like kick your ass, you don't listen. But they were very much like, by the end of the year, you always understood what their whole, maybe got mad at them a lot, but you understood what the premise of what they were doing. So I want to put that out there. I feel like there's too many teachers that are either like what I said, the snobby type of strict that's not doing it for a real reason, or they're just, there's too much being put on them. Like, kind of like what you said, they're trying to teach a class, but then they're also, if they're writing IEPs, you have an IEP.
Right.
Or if they're trying to be your counselor, if you're having a bad day, like, that's another thing. We need to have more counselors in schools. Have you ever gone down to the counselor's office to ask, can I speak to the counselor about something? And what, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, the counselor's not there. Counselor's in a meeting, counselor's planning something for the school. That's a problem, everybody.
Yeah.
That's, and that goes back on the teachers and the principals. The principals, I'll get the principals need to do a lot more too, but the teachers should not be there to be counselors. They are there, yes, they're there to support you, but they are there to teach you and educate you. They are not there for if you're having a bad day, which I can understand that you want to have support, but that's what the guidance counselors are there for. And, schools either don't hire enough of them, or they're always like, oh, they're planning the pep rally, or they're in a meeting right now, or they're out today. Like, it's just always something. I feel like it's the same thing too with principals sometimes too. I really think that that's a burden that we need to take off teachers. Teachers, yes, some of them could do it, but need to stop. Like, teachers need to be there to teach and not to be there to basically counsel and be a parent. Like, it's a teacher's job to teach. Like, and I get you're there to support the kids, but there's teachers that are having to try to be a parent to a child, an influence. They're trying to do a lot of things all at once.
Well, that's the thing. When you're in school, especially when you're younger, about 70% of their life is in school. Therefore, they're being impacted the most. The parents don't get to see their kids that often. Like I said, the children are in school 70% of their life until they get out. And that's the thing that you all need to realize. And I think parents aren't really, taken into consideration. I know nothing about being a parent. Obviously, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, me neither.
But, like, in school, it's going to be rough sometimes. And, teachers do need to take responsibility and, teach the kids, about, like, you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah, well, something that always irritated me. So this mainly happened to me in 9th grade and 4th grade. There were always teachers that, they're on their computer or they're on their phone and they say, oh, here's this textbook, go do your assignment. It's on the Chromebook, it's on Canvas.
Right.
Once in a while I can see that, like if they're trying to get such and such grade and get it in because they have deadlines and stuff, but when it's happening every day, I used to have a teacher, I'm not going to say her name, in 4th grade. Not 4th grade, 9th grade, I'm sorry. She would do it every day. She was my math teacher in 9th grade. I'm not going to say who you are. If you're watching, you know who you are. But every day, she'd be on the computer or on her phone. And if you'd ask her for help, she would give you the most agitated response. Like, What are you doing on that computer? Like, I had an IEP, I'm not the smartest kid. I have some, learning troubles.
Yeah.
They always say, I'm writing IEPs, I'm writing IEPs. A lot of them teachers that do that are given 3 prep periods. Sorry, that was 4. 3 prep periods. I just don't understand, yes, I get it. Writing IEPs is a lot. It's a lot of paperwork, It's a lot of effort, it's a lot of mind thinking. But there's also a certain time where, all right, you have a class, you have 12 students or 20 students or whatever, they need to be taught. They're not coming to your classroom because they want to. They're coming to the classroom because the government says they need to learn.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem too. I think when it comes to special education, I think that there need to be teachers that simply do IEP stuff and then teachers that simply teach. I think they need to totally separate that. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. I think some teachers now, I don't know what it's like to be a teacher. It's probably just as hard as being a student, having to take all them calls, writing emails, and grading so many papers. I bet that is a shit ton of work to do. You
don't get paid that much. In this area you do, but in some areas you don't get paid well at all.
Yeah, and I did have some teachers back in my day where they basically wouldn't care or wouldn't help you, and I feel like sometimes they would take an advantage. And I know I may sound crazy when I say this, I think some teachers would take an advantage of your learning disability, and all. That's how I felt back then.
Not all. Listen, I have a couple teachers. I don't know if they want their names said on YouTube, but I have one that's subscribed to the channel. There's many amazing people. We'll just say Mr. R. I don't want to say his name.
Yeah.
Mr. H at one of my schools, Mr. P. All amazing teachers. There's a lot. I'm not gonna say their names that I've really not liked. There's only one teacher though that I never at the end of the year saw what her purpose was. I never seen eye to eye with her.
Yeah.
Every other teacher, there's that, they sent me to the office a couple times, we get into a couple arguments, whatever. But by that last day of school, you're thinking, you know what? I was kind of bratty. Maybe I should have been a little bit more mature.
Yeah.
Or see what they do. But there was only one teacher. I'm not gonna say my 9th grade math teacher is the only one I never saw eye to eye with, and she was just not pleasant. I don't want to get too personal here, but I can't understand it. They're taking advantage of it, saying, "Oh, you have a learning disability." But here's something that really bothers me: principals. They're in their office all day long.
Yeah.
Joe Clark, if you ever seen this movie, he's always walking around inside the building and doing stuff. Sorry about that little pause there, guys. It's like what I was saying. Principals should be out observing classrooms, asking teachers if they need help, making sure students aren't doing, vaping and drugs and stuff in the bathroom. But they're not. Listen, I get it. There's meetings. You have to meet with the township once a month. You also have to meet with the school board and stuff. But there's not that many meetings and emails to where you cannot at least once a day maybe go out and walk the hall, walk the entire building, and see if any teachers need help with anything or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's another part that I can see the struggle for teachers now. Some teachers really have to go to the bathroom or something sometimes, and they just can't get out of the classroom because they don't have no one to come in there and do it. If the principals were walking around the building, they can say, "Oh, I can stand in for your classroom for 5 minutes. You join the bathroom. Go take your time. I'll sit in and make sure they're doing their history project or whatever."
Right.
That's a problem. But like what I said, schools are just out of touch.
Yeah.
With basics. Do you want to collaborate on that?
The one thing that you got to realize is that there is favoritism in school.
Oh, 100%.
And I feel like with teachers, it's exceptional. Or no. I would say if the teacher likes you, then that's a good thing. And then the student will like them back. You want to create, that certain bond with a teacher. We've had many teachers that we love, and they love us back. They were such cool teachers.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of teachers, and not even teachers, I think any employee within schools have, there is favoritism involved. And I know for any teachers who is watching this, but I highly doubt it, it is honestly the truth.
Yeah.
There is.
So, I don't want to say about every teacher. I'm sure there's teachers that like students more than others, but teachers supposed to be neutral. In 8th grade, I'm not going to say his name, but you know who he is.
Yeah.
My favorite teacher, he was a dick, don't get me wrong, but he was an amazing teacher. Always, you left that class, you were more knowledgeable every day. One of my favorite teachers of all time, if not probably my favorite teacher of all time. He sort of set ground rules. You're going to be quiet in my class, you're going to pay attention, or I'm going to send you to the office. that's basically like he didn't favorize. But I guess coming from a male perspective, I've had some teachers that were females that have said that have favored the females over the males. You noticed before where they've where like they tell Brian and Julian stop talking over there, do your work, as yet the person's sitting right next to you. One of my friends I used to have back in 6th grade, I'm not gonna say his name either in the thing, but he has to use the bathroom. She gave him a severely hard time, and the teacher told him no. Then again, he had all his work done, everything. Listening wasn't being bad. But a girl comes up, and she goes, it was Mrs. Kaba, or Mrs. K, may I use the bathroom? And Mrs. Kaba goes, of course, sweetheart. I mean, that right there is favoritism.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about that?
I mean, the one thing I would say that has impacted schools the most is technology.
Oh
I mean,
my God.
if you think about it, back from any day and age, back from the 80s and 90s, people were much more sociable and people had a lot more respect for each other. And now technology has impacted schools so much, it's all gone basically. Like we don't have any teachers like we used to have back then. And I'm not saying that, each year, people are going to have teachers that are strict and they want the best for you. And teachers do want the best for you. But it's just the way that teachers teach now. It's like, it's a dramatic difference.
Well, I want to bring something up. Do you remember last year in math class when we would have trouble seeing the board sometimes?
Yes.
I don't have glasses. I've been checked and stuff. My eyes are fine, they say. But sometimes on a screen, I mean, everyone knows this. When you're looking at a screen, your head starts to hurt sometimes. Well, there's things called smart boards. I know some schools have flat screens and stuff, but looking at that for 20 minutes at a time or whatever longer classes, your head begins to hurt. I mean, not everybody, but me. I mean, to me, the chalkboard is much more effective in my...
In all honesty, yeah, I think using a chalkboard is...
Or a whiteboard is just much more effective.
It's so much better. It's faster. You can get done the lessons faster. I feel like using a smartboard is... I wouldn't say overrated, but I mean, like, using a chalkboard is so much better, or a blackboard, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's sort of like... You know how like the smartboard, the smartboard's glitching, we don't know how to do it, let's call it technology. There's a chalkboard here next to it, a chalkboard here, there's a chalkboard in the back of the classroom.
Or a whiteboard.
Yeah, there's whiteboards. Why can't you use that? Why do you have to call it technology? Like, let's get the lesson done, you can call technology later and say, my projector is screwing up. But let's just get the lesson, you have a chalkboard, let's use it. And that just pissed me off so big. Most teachers nowadays, I mean, in all my schooling, I've only had one teacher that actually use the chalkboard for every single lesson. Most teachers don't even use them, or they'll sometimes write what day it is in school. Or
they
Monday.
will use it, but not to teach though.
Yeah, and technology in general. So most schools, all kids have Chromebooks or tablets.
Yeah.
It's there's a certain level. I mean, my 8th grade science teacher always said this: you're at home, you got TV on, you got a tablet that you're on your phone on Snapchat, Instagram, and stuff. Technology is in your life all the time. You come to school to learn. And it's there too. I mean, it was a lot before, but ever since COVID, it's really gotten off the deep end. I don't see it changing honestly, because technology's there. Why are you gonna go back?
And we're saying that technology isn't like a huge problem. I mean, it's technology. I mean, we use it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, we're using technology right now.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think in terms of learning, like back when COVID happened, like doing Zoom classes was very
terrible.
hard. Like I did digital design, and doing that on Zoom, it was so confusing. I couldn't even keep up. I actually had to close my laptop and leave before my teacher could call me and ask me what I was doing, and then everyone else is listening, and it worried me a lot.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it was 2020. I was in 9th grade when everything shut down. I would have, if Tom Wolf wouldn't have put out and said that everyone has to pass school, because that's what he did in Pennsylvania. The governor said you have to pass all the students. I would have failed 9th grade, because I was only passing one class by the end of the year. It was a real struggle. The only class I was passing, I think, was art class, because all you had to do was just find an artist that you liked and just write a little story about it. But it was rough. The Zoom would cut in and out. You had trouble understanding the teacher, like you said about everyone's listening. I mean, it was rough, and some people say that school should go fully online. I mean,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
There are some kids who cannot do online. Like, as much as I really don't like school all that much, I have to be in person to know what I'm doing, so I can hand my stuff in. Like the submit button on my computer wouldn't always work. I wouldn't know where to. Even though the teachers do go over that, and explain, it's still very confusing. And I didn't have good network at my house,
Yeah.
so my computer would constantly like skip over and over and over again. And I've tried so many times to join back, but it just wouldn't work at all.
Now there is one thing about the virtual world that I do want to say something positive about. So I don't know. A lot of schools had this. Sometimes it was on Tuesday. Ours was on Wednesday. Remember Cyber Wednesdays?
Yeah, asynchronous days, right?
Yeah, where it was days where school was closed because they were deep cleaning the building, which they should really do, pandemic or not. But there were days where you could log on, and you could go on, and you could go into a teacher's Zoom room and like, hey, Mrs. Truck. I don't know if the teacher has a name like that. Hey, Miss Truck, I'm not understanding this article for English class. Could you possibly help me? You could do that on them Zoom days. I think schools should go back to that. I think we should have Monday and Tuesday in person, Thursday and Friday in person, and then let Wednesday be the days where you can deep clean the buildings, the kids get a little bit of a break, but then if the kids need help with something, they need some one-on-one time with the teacher, with the instructional assistant, whatever, we can do that on them days. Don't you agree? Like, that would be a good idea?
I do agree. And even though on those days it was very hard because you're at home, and therefore you are distracted a lot. I was distracted a lot.
TV,
but I mean, I did still try to make an effort and do show up for my classes, though. Even though I would have to leave around halfway because my computer wouldn't work, or my Wi-Fi in general. But I mean, yeah, I thought, I would think back in 10th grade when everyone was like, let's bring back the asynchronous days. You know, I was on board with that, but you know, it never happened. But you know.
Yeah. So initially, at my school, I mean, I moved in 9th grade. So my school, we would have. I don't know if Springfield was like this thing because I moved back to Springfield. We would have days, like we'd have a week where we were in person, and then all of a sudden the county would come in and say, nope, schools are closed. So we'd go like 2 weeks in person, 2 weeks virtual, or a day in person, day virtual. That was really hard. Like, are we going to get to see the teacher today and actually learn the lesson, or is it just going to be on Skyward or whatever? That was really hard. Did your school do that where it kept flip-flopping?
Yeah, we did keep flip-flopping. When COVID was a big thing in 2019, during, I think you were there too, actually. It was 7th period, I think. And on the announcements, the principal was like, all right, we're having, it was either 2 or 3 weeks off, right?
3 weeks.
And everyone was like so happy and excited. I, on the other hand, was actually kind of bummed because I wanted to get done some work to bring up my grades. And there was another guy who I know who actually had the same reaction. Some kids actually weren't happy because they wanted to turn in their assignments, get it done, and then to hear that we have like these 3 weeks off was totally like a curveball. You know?
I remember when the principal came on the announcements and said, I mean, they didn't tell us what it was for. I mean, I knew it was from COVID.
Yeah. But
they said school will be shut. We are going home early today, and school will be shut down for the next 3 weeks, and then we'll have a meeting and all that, and let you know what's going on then. We were off for 3 weeks. I mean, it was amazing 3 weeks time to do no schoolwork. The school board announced that they're going to be shut down for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it was after that when they said we were going to be doing Zoom. And that was 9th grade was rough, and then 10th grade they kept doing, it would be shut down. We'd have half days. I mean, it was rough in 10th grade.
Yeah.
I think honestly everyone in the schools and government should be held accountable because I know that there was a pandemic and everything, but I don't think one school should have been shut down. I really don't.
Yeah.
In my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when 10th grade started for us, we had the whole mask thing, and Zoom was still optional, or for cyber students, we're still doing it. But I really enjoyed being back in class, though. By the time we were allowed to go back in, I really enjoyed that a lot.
Well, something that really bothered me in school? So, at my school in 11th grade, about probably 100% of the staff were vaccinated, and about 90% of the students were vaccinated. And there was no statewide mask mandate anymore, and the numbers were dropped, all that, and they were still saying, wear a mask, wear a mask. I thought that was kind of bullshit. Not that I minded it, but I'd had 3 shots by then. I'd had COVID twice. What's the point? Like, do you understand?
No, the thing, I mean, this is all old news, but the thing is, like, with the vaccine, it does not prevent you from getting COVID.
It just makes you a lot less sick.
It makes you more immune, or a lot less sick.
It's really not even, I don't think it should be called a vaccine. I think it should just be called a medicine or a helper, because you can get COVID, it makes your symptoms much more mild when you, instead of having a cold for 5 days, you only have it for 2.
Yeah, it's basically just a cold at that point, It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, so, just school in general, whether it's the COVID thing or the lack of discipline, is struggling. And we have what 50% like 30% of kids don't graduate in the United States anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all because of the discipline in the school system nowadays.
And there is a certain level where you say, all right, kids need to try more, but there's also a level where you gotta say, like, is it really the students' fault? Like, I remember Joe Clark saying in the movie, saying, and the problem here is not the students, the problem here is you. You're the ones failing to educate them. I think there is a certain level where it's time to say, all right, like, the students have tried their best, they're not comprehending it, you need to do something better.
Yeah.
Now there is definitely situations where students just don't want to try. I've been around tons of them where they're just...
that's their choice.
Yeah, where they're just being lazy, where the teacher tries, they explain it to them multiple times, they try to help them with it, they just don't want to learn. They're just... Like I actually know these two girls, I'm not going to say their names, but they literally were I wouldn't say they're geniuses, but they were average girls. They pretended to be like they were just that they couldn't read, they couldn't do math, all that, just to get in easier classes where they didn't have to do as much work, just to get sympathy. That irritated me so badly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I get it. No one wants to be in school. Majority of kids don't want to be in school, even though I do kind of miss it now that I'm out of school. Majority of kids don't want to be in school, but just might as well just try while you're there. You're not going to be able to get out of it. Trust me. Try to skip school. Your parents, your guardians are going to catch you. Yeah. So just deal with it. Because, in all honesty, even for someone who's graduated, you can say this too. There's days where I'm like, thank God I'm not having to deal with that. But there's also days, you know what? Like, I don't work today. I'm bored. I really do wish I was still in school. Give me something to do. Like, you have that too, don't you?
Yeah, definitely being in school, it was great. Back then I did not like school at all. I hated the work. But, by the time, like, when I think about 10th and 12th grade, it actually was not that bad. And there were some other grades too that were also great. But, I usually see, like, these reels on Instagram where, like, like you have like these different reactions of what every at the end of school year is like you're happy, but then when you get close to high school, you actually start to get sad because it's all over. You're not really going back ever again. You won't see any any people that you see on a daily day.
Vast majority of them you're never gonna see again.
Yeah, you're never gonna see the people again. And I really did like one of my classes. Like, I loved English class in 12th grade. I really loved it a lot, what we learned, and seeing the students that we did on a daily basis, and now it's all gone.
Yeah.
And every kid is going to feel like that when they are done high school.
Yeah.
You guys are going to miss it. It was honestly great.
Now listen, I never thought I'd be saying this. We just graduated in June, so we've not been out of school that long. The world is much different. Like, the real world, it is really much different. I've never this much. I still don't have my driver's license and stuff, but just the stress of, like, where am I? You start to think, where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years? Am I going to keep this job for a while? Am I going to get my license? Am I going to college? The real world really does sit on you. More, I guess, than others. But it's rough. Don't you agree that that's rough? You just start, once you get out of school, and you don't have to, your mind's not on work and stuff anymore, you really start thinking about, what am I gonna do? Like what am I gonna do for money this week? Like, the stuff, like, that really sets in.
When you think about it, I'm gonna make an analogy here. School, your whole life, it's like a video game, and I'm gonna explain how. All of school is just a tutorial of what you need to do before you go out into the real world. By the time you're done school and you're finished that 13-year tutorial, or 12-year, 13-year, you are now starting the game. You are officially in the game now.
Yeah.
No more school.
No more
shields in front of you. You are officially playing the game. And I think saying that, we've lived that life now. And, we were playing that life, and now we're really getting into it,
Yeah, I could compare this to sort of, I don't know how I want to, I wouldn't compare this to prison or anything, but it's sort of like, let's say you get arrested all the time, you're in juvie, and you're at the jail station and all that. It's sort of like actually getting arrested and going to real prison for the first time. it's like you don't have that protection anymore. You're out. You're with all the real people. I mean, and the stress does really sit in. I mean, yes, it's nice not having to wake up every morning and stuff, but then you start thinking, what's gonna happen when it's time for me? Am I gonna be able to live out on my own soon, or am I going to college? Like you start thinking, like, what am I gonna do with my life? It sits in a little bit in 12th grade, but once you're out of school, oh my God, it really comes in like a freaking train, just woo, comes right through.
The one thing that I realized is a lot of kids and students don't really know what they want to do when they're in school, but by the time you get out, you actually do know what you want to do. You know, and I've had that feeling before. Like, I loved English class, like I said, and I was really interested in British literature, but I didn't want to make that my career though. But I'm really into angelology, demonology, and anything about studying, you know, God or science. You know, I enjoy stuff like that. Even I like studying Greek mythology a lot. But my main goal that I want to do is become a game programmer, you know, that kind of stuff. But I mean, yeah, it's good to know what you do want to do though, and you probably will know by the time you're out of school, which is weird.
Yeah.
But eventually, you will know what you want to do. Your mind and body, you just don't know it yet. That's all.
Yeah. What the great person always said: if you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Yeah.
Potentially meaning, follow your dreams, never give up. But if you have an opportunity that might help you get your dreams launched, take it. Unless of course, it's something terrible. Do not do it. If it involves like crimes or anything, back out. Don't take that fork.
I know a lot of people say, a lot of influencers, like musicians, whatever, would always say, oh, I don't always follow my brain, I follow my heart. Actually, do use your brain, okay? You want to know what you're getting yourself into. Even though that's, you know, you want to think before you do stuff, okay?
Well, I've heard this, so I want to be a film director. I'm logical about that. I know that there's a less than 2% chance of that actually happening, me being successful and stuff with it. So that's why I want to get a teaching degree, to sort of like, for if that temporarily works out or doesn't work out, I have something to fall back on. You know, there's a lot of people that want to do stuff, but they're just not realistic. You know what I mean, Julian? Like,
yes.
They want to, if you want to be a businessman, but you don't have money to run a business, you're not thinking like logical afterwards. But what the main point of my story is, if you guys are in middle school or high school, start thinking now of what you want to do. Get a part-time job now and keep it. And maybe if you make $100 a paycheck, keep 50 of it and start saving. I mean, I would honestly say if you're in 7th or 8th grade, start thinking about. I know you want to be young, you want to have a good time, you want to be a kid, but start thinking now about your first car and about maybe your first apartment or trailer, wherever you want to live in. Start thinking about that now. I wish I would have done that. And anytime you get money, whether it's from a job or allowance or whatever, be responsible with it. Because, you know, when you're out of school at 18, it could really help you. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. Definitely. I mean, and it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. I mean, if you guys have a counselor or a teacher or a pen pal of any kind, they will basically say the same thing that we're telling you right now. It's okay if you don't know. But it's always good just to plan ahead, because you don't want to rely everything on your parents, you know. And even though every kid does that, you do want to plan ahead, get a job, and get your own money. And it feels good when you have your own money and, you know, get your first paycheck. You know, it's a good feeling.
Because you never know. You could be with your parent or your guardian or whatever, and they could say, yeah, when you turn 16, I'm gonna go out and get you a truck or a car or whatever. But then you never know, something could happen. Like one of them could die, or you know whatever. Like the house could burn down. Like something financially could happen. So you should. I wish I would have done this in school. Like back in 8th grade when I got my first job. Even if you're saving 50 cents, like just think when you're 18, you're in a tough situation, whatever, you've got money in the bank. May not be much, but you know, it's something that you can go out and buy a car or rent a hotel, something, you know what I mean? So I would recommend that as soon as you get a job, even if you're saving 1 cent out of each paycheck, just save a little bit of money as much as you can. Because trust me, when you're our age and not that we're acting like we're 60, it's going to help you a lot. You're going to feel a lot more different then. Trust me, it may not seem like much, but by the time you're graduating out of high school, it's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, and even though both of us are like 18 going on 19, and we basically haven't seen the real world yet. I mean, we're not living on our own yet, but this is just for reference, you know, make sure you do help your parents, you know, like you do live in their house, right? So you gotta be respectful, and I know it can be hard sometimes. I have anger issues actually, and I'm slightly bipolar, and it's a little rough sometimes because my mom, like I'm living, my mom's single, so and I'm her only child, and I try to help her out best I can. If she wants to borrow money from me, go ahead. You don't have to pay me back or nothing, because honestly, when I feel like my mom has to pay me back, it makes me feel like trash. Like that's my mom, just leave it, just take it, it's okay. So help your parents out as much as you can.
Yeah. Now, to comment on that, yes, exactly what you said, but there is a certain level where you have to think your parents, help them, but there's also a certain level where you need to help yourself too. You need to make sure that your stuff's put in place too. I agree 100% with what he said, but all I want to say is just try to be as not like politically conservative, but financially conservative as possible, and not like, listen, you're young. We spent money on stupid shit, haven't we?
Yeah, I blew my whole paycheck away on DoorDash one time.
Yeah, I've done that.
It made me mad so much.
Yeah, I did that recently. I'm on a diet. I really shouldn't be doing it, but like, I wish all the money we probably made thousands of dollars if we put all our paychecks when we first started working to now.
Yeah.
Just think, had we saved that, we could probably own our own cars right now. Maybe have our own places. Probably not because it's so expensive. Maybe roommates or whatever. We could possibly have that. We were stupid with our money. Now, listen, I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but if let's say there's this new phone and the new iPhone, you want it badly, and you want to save for that, good for you. You saved it, but just remember, you could be in a position years down the road where you might be struggling to find a place to live, or you might need a car, something along those sorts. That money that you spent on that iPhone, you might have wanted to have it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically it, guys. Did you want to say anything else?
No, that was basically it. I think we talked about everything we needed to cover.
Yeah. We might do another video tomorrow. Yeah, that was basically schools. We don't know all this stuff, but guys, girls, just be smart. I don't want to sound like a rock star, but don't do drugs. Try to be as smart as possible and work. Even if you're switching jobs every week, still work, and never give up. No matter how hard life gets, never give up. This is coming from someone who's struggling really bad right now. Never give up your dreams and keep fighting. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you like this video, leave a comment and subscribe for more, everybody. See you next time.
See you guys.